Pirates, I can reject everything. Chapter 441 to 460. 441. Chris's decision must be the strongest to destroy the kingdom of Pudora. Chris's purpose is very clear. What he wants is not just the territory of Pudora Kingdom. Reason why he agreed to Sengoku at the beginning was to attack the Pudora Kingdom in a big way. What Chris looks at is not just a piece of land and rich resources and treasury. Since preparing to establish the Shichibukai alliance, Chris has begun to plan to establish his own country. Build an extremely powerful country in the shortest possible time. From scratch, everything will be too slow. So, Chris's only option is to take over a country that is very powerful in itself. Of Pudora is just such a very suitable object. Chris said lightly, if we want to complete our grand cause, we can't spend too much time and waste in the process. The 100-year heritage of the Pudora Kingdom cannot be accumulated casually. If we want to start from scratch and cultivate our own people step by step, this is too slow. By that time, none of us will know what the situation in the world will be like. Of the Chris pirates have broadened their horizons a lot in the past year. Everyone knows that the changes on this sea can be described as rapid changes. If they wanted to overthrow Tenryubito's rule, they couldn't delay too long. Faint smile appeared on Hancock's beautiful face. She said softly, so, your purpose at the beginning was not to destroy the kingdom of Pudora. All you want is to eradicate the ruler of the Pudora Kingdom, and then directly rule the people here. Chris nodded and said indifferently, no one knows this place better than the original residents here. Besides, the Pudora Kingdom has a sturdy national style and a martial style, and everyone can use it. If we can really conquer these people, it will be a good thing for us. The reason why the Kingdom of Pudora is so powerful is that it ranks as the most powerful country that is not a member of the world government. On the mighty power of these people. In the Kingdom of Pudora, everyone is good at fighting. This alone, other countries would not dare to provoke them at will. Chris continued talking. The Pudora Kingdom has a sturdy national style, and if you want to conquer the masses, you can only rely on the toughest means. Only upright, defeating this country with the power of crushing. Only the people here can be completely convinced by our Chris pirates. Only by convincing them of us will we have the possibility to rule them further. Chris raised his eyebrows and looked at Cavendish and Bartolomeo and the others. If according to what you said, we will attack directly, or take assassination to kill the king of Pudora Kingdom. In this case, we can indeed defeat the Pudora Kingdom very quickly. However, after doing this, the people here will never surrender to our Chris pirates. They will only continue to make trouble for the next time, and keep thinking about recovering their country. Then we may have to keep suppressing them in the days to come, and not be able to carry out our plan with peace of mind. After Chris gave a long speech, everyone was like a slap in the face, and the feeling was relieved. Everyone has a deep admiration for Chris. They didn't expect that the captain, who was usually taciturn, suddenly talked loudly, but could directly persuade everyone. Kuro couldn't help shaking his head and sighed. As expected, the captain is looking farther. Occupying and ruling a country are indeed two completely different concepts. It's easy to occupy, but it takes too much effort to rule. Lafitte pressed his hat and said softly, according to the captain's instructions, all the fighting power of the Pudora Kingdom will be activated. Then at the moment when they thought they were the most powerful, they defeated the entire Pudora Kingdom in one fell swoop. In this way, everyone in this country will admire and fear our strength. Even if some people are still dissatisfied, I'm afraid no one will dare to stand up against us again. Enel floated in the air, poked his ears, and smiled casually. Deal with this country with a tough culture. The best way is to defeat them in the same tough way. Defeat them in the force they are best at, and I think most people will approve of our rule. As long as we don't oppress the original inhabitants of the Pudora Kingdom, they will still support us. Reiju touched his delicate chin and sneered, I may have more experience than everyone in this regard. 4. Ordinary people, as long as the ruler treats them well, it can bring them a happy life. They never care who rules. 442. The kingdom of Kudora gives a speech, inspires people, and makes everyone take up arms and fight. Germa doesn't know how many countries he has conquered, and his methods are also very tough. Reiju has also led the team to perform many tasks. But after conquering these countries, Reiju's men rarely target innocent civilians. Therefore, every time Reiju can control these countries smoothly. But IG and the others will slaughter ordinary people every time, so what they get can only be the resources and territory of this country. Reiju is the only one who wins the hearts and minds of the people. Hancock's beautiful eyes and Vivi flowed, and he smiled softly. Chris's vision will always look farther than we all. It has to be said that what he does is indeed more useful than simply occupying the kingdom of Kudora. Bonnie naturally nodded and said with a smile, the Kudora kingdom has such a large group of people, this is a very important force. It would be a shame if all were killed. Fortunately, Chris has a vision. After that, these people will definitely be able to submit to us. Corona flew in the air and said with a smile, if you want to be wise, it has to be Chris. Kuro is just a little bit smart, and only Chris can come up with this kind of wisdom. Ha 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 ha. This, Kuro could only helplessly spread his hands. He shook his head and sighed and said, I am at most a little think tank of our Chris pirates. How can my vision be as broad as the captain's? So, my vision determines that I can only be a squad leader. On Nami's face, and she said with a smile, Chris usually trains in the training room all the time. We don't know that while he is cultivating, he is also planning everything. A double-mindedness like Chris can achieve big results, and the rest of us can't do it anyway. Bakura gathered his hair and said generously, Chris's great wisdom has always existed. From the first time we met, I knew that Chris was a man of great wisdom and great luck. That's why I am willing to give up on Chris's side. Luo Wai stood aside with Guikuu in his arms, and said indifferently, only a wise captain can build a great pirate group. The reason why we, the Chris pirates, can be today is inseparable from the captain's every correct decision. Man Demon Jin sneered at Isho, and said coldly, from attacking Crocodile, to joining King Shichibukai, to attacking the kingdom of Kudora. The captain's mind jumps, and it always makes us all unable to keep up. But in the end it turned out that the captain was never at fault. Cavendish couldn't help but tut two words. The captain is like a sophisticated machine, tireless and will not make mistakes. If I could have had the shrewd brain of the captain, I would certainly not be what I am now. Maybe, I have already become a sea emperor in the new world. Squad leaders expressed their admiration and envy for Chris's wisdom. And in this matter, Hawkeye Mahawk is also impressed by Chris. His deep glasses stared at the kingdom of Kudora in the distance, and murmured, Chris, this guy is really scary. We are still struggling with how to attack the kingdom of Kudora, but he has already thought of how to govern the kingdom of Kudola. His judgment on the situation and speculation about human nature are beyond our understanding. Hawk-eyed Mahawk felt particularly incredible. He felt that Chris was always standing in the perspective of God. That's why he can understand everything at the earliest, and then make the most correct judgment. At the same time, the kingdom of Kudora, Plaza Buenos Aires. This is a central square in the capital of the kingdom of Kudola. Many important events have been held in this place. Therefore, in the hearts of the people of the entire Kudola kingdom, the Plaza de Buenos Aires is more like a very sacred place. At this moment, the place above the Plaza de Buenos Aires was already crowded with people. On the high platform in the center of Piazza Buenos Aires, Bate Deng West is standing there. Culture Secretary Ricky Davies happened to be nearby at this time. He saw a large number of people gathered here, and he couldn't help asking the guards around him curiously, what happened here? With such a large number of people gathered here, is there something major happening? The guard hurriedly inquired and replied, Lord Davis, it's Bait Densei who is giving a speech on the Buyano High platform. He is calling on the people to rise up against the Chris pirates. Hearing this, Ricky Davis couldn't help raising his eyebrows, slightly surprised. This Biden got the news so quickly. Also, his influence is exactly what we need now. 443. The people of Kudora Kingdom are excited, and they want to fight Chris to the death. Ricky Davis is no stranger to the name Betty Densei. It might even be said that it is very familiar. Bait Densei is a very famous political orator in the Kingdom of Kudola. He is very good at speeches, and every time he can find his own way and occupy the commanding heights of morality and reason. Before that, Bait Densei had delivered hundreds of speeches in Plaza Buenos Aires. And each time, he was a huge success. Over time, this Bait Densei became the most famous orator in the Kudola Kingdom. And followers have also reached a very terrifying level. As the Minister of Culture, is naturally very familiar with such a speaker who is well received by the people. Ricky Davis whispers Isho, let him speak well. Today, we need the support of these people even more. Just an hour ago, Ricky Davis got the news that the Chris pirates had entered the port of Kudora Kingdom. So he has realized that the war is about to start. And according to the news from the front, the battle of the Chris pirates is extremely strong. If you want to fight against the Chris pirates, relying only on the kingdom's army should not be enough. So now, fighting for the power of the general public is naturally the best choice. On the high platform of Buyano, Betty Densei was wearing a black cloak. He said aloud with righteous indignation, I believe everyone is like me, and heard such a news. Just an hour ago, the Chris pirates were approaching our port. Maybe many people don't know the truth of this news. I can tell everyone in charge right now that this news is absolutely true. At this moment, the Chris is parked outside the port of our Kudola Kingdom. With an excited look on his face, Biden continued to shout loudly, at this time, the Chris has set up heavy artillery and aimed at us. But, the Chris pirates are attacking us. Biden deliberately paused here, and with a pair of eyes, swept the following people. The people with doubts. Then, he suddenly asked, Dow, the Chris pirates. Why didn't they attack directly? A man below shouts back, so today, they're just getting ready. Betty Densei chuckled, and then said coldly, yes, this is indeed one of the reasons. However, that's not the most important reason. Suddenly, a female voice came from below the stage. This is a supporter of Biden West, she asked, Lord Biden West, why did the Chris pirates not attack directly? Do you know what's going on? In the eyes of these supporters, Biden is like a god, omniscient and omniscient. However, Biden seems to enjoy playing such a role. He narrowed his eyes and sneered, of course I know. What are the plans of the Chris pirates? This group of over-the-top guys came to the port a day early just to show off to us. The Chris pirates, they are showing us their mighty force. This is a blatant challenge to our Kudola Kingdom. As soon as these words came out, the entire Plaza Buyano was immediately plunged into a boiling commotion. After Biden said a few words, it was here immediately. The crowd became angry. Seeing this scene, Ricky Davis couldn't help but curled his lips and said, this Biden, there is indeed something. If you talk about it casually, you can make so many people stand with him. It seems that these people have begun to hate the Chris pirates. Smug smile appeared on Ricky Davis's face. He was very happy to see such a scene. Seeing the fierce reaction from the public, Biden struck while the iron was hot. He continued, the Chris pirates, just an arrogant group. Especially their pirate captain, Chris, this guy is a typical dead or alive. They thought that with such a battle, our Kudola Kingdom would be afraid of them. Did they think, we're going to catch the Chris pirates without a hitch? Biden's voice suddenly increased a lot, saying, this is daydreaming. The Chris pirates don't have a clear understanding of what they are doing. The more Biden spoke, the more excited he became, and the people below became more and more boiling. The Chris pirates. This is using their poor military strength to show off their might to a mighty country. It's like a puppy with just teeth showing off his might to a ferocious tiger. How stupid they are. 444. Chris provoked public anger, and everyone threatened to kill him. Biden compared the Chris pirates to a puppy that has just grown teeth. Of Putuola to a ferocious tiger. The huge gap between the two just reflects the power gap between the Chris pirates and the kingdom of Pudora. Under the propaganda of Beit Diangshi, the people of Pudora Kingdom on the Plaza de Buenos Aires disdained the Chris pirates one after another. They chose to believe the words of Beit Diangshi, thinking that the attack of the Chris pirates was nothing more than hitting a stone with an egg. Betty Dengsi continued, "Our kingdom of Pudora is undoubtedly the most powerful country in the world. For so many years, the world government has not dared to touch us easily. A mere Chris pirates want to occupy our country. This Chris, what a daydream." After Betty Dengsi's speech, the people of Putuola Kingdom are full of boundless confidence in their country again. All of them believed that the kingdom of Pudora was the most powerful country in the world. No one. At the same time, several voices sounded in the Plaza de Buenos Aires. Of Pudora Kingdom, he also took a step directly at this moment and stood under the high platform of Buyano. This person is named Auden, brave and good at fighting, and also a legendary figure in the kingdom of Putuola. Although he is old now, his personal influence in the kingdom of Putuola is still very considerable. Auden's face was resolute, and he snorted coldly, "The Chris pirates are daring and want to destroy the kingdom of Pudora. Such thieves are really insane, and they are looking for their own way of death. The power of our Putuola kingdom is just a pirate, and there is no way to imagine it. As long as the Chris pirates dare to step into our country, they will surely die without a place to be buried." On the other side, the same old man stood up. This person is the confidant minister of the previous king, Nurkic. Although Nurkic is over 60 years old, he is still burly and tall. He sneered and said disdainfully, "This yellow-mouthed child, he doesn't know the real background of our Pudora kingdom. He hadn't been born yet when we started to expand our territory. If he knew the true strength of our Putuola kingdom, I would not dare to make such a move today." Seeing that the two well-respected predecessors spoke up, the Minister of Culture, Ricky Davis, could no longer remain silent. He stood outside the crowd and said with a loud laugh, "Chris's move today is just to provoke our Pudora kingdom. This yellow-mouthed child, I am afraid he really thinks that the people of our Putuola kingdom have been scared since childhood." Ricky Davis shook his head with a smile, and said casually, "Chris's provocation is completely a child's willful behavior. So all of us now understand what kind of opponent we are facing. In the kingdom of Pudora, there is absolutely no need to be afraid of the Chris pirates." Words came out, there was a burst of laughter in the entire Plaza de Buyano. Under the continued rendering of Ricky Davis and others, the atmosphere in the Plaza de Buenos Aires suddenly became much more relaxed. Everyone began to despise the Chris pirates. Seeing the confidence of everyone, Ricky Davis also showed a happy smile on his face. He murmured to himself, "At this time, the emotions of the domestic people are still very important." Fortunately, the seniors of Biden and Auden, their influence is still there. After their troubles like this, the Chinese people will be full of confidence. Ricky Davis is very satisfied with this speech by Biden. He didn't know the real situation, and the top priority was to mobilize the fighting spirit in the whole country and let all the people participate in the fighting. Only in this way can the kingdom of Putuola have hope of victory. Ricky Davis returned to his sedan chair and headed towards the Putuola Palace. On the Plaza de Buenos Aires, Betty Dengsi continued, "Everyone, the Chris pirates dare to provoke our country. This is disrespect to our entire Pudora kingdom. It is disrespectful to us. Can everyone tolerate this kind of behavior?" Soon as this statement came out, it immediately ignited the emotions in the entire Plaza Buenos Aires. Intolerable. Absolutely intolerable. Get out of the Chris pirates. Kill all the Chris pirates and make them pay the price they deserve. For a while, the crowd in the Plaza de Buenos Aires was furious. A kingdom ranger held a big sword and said viciously, "If the Chris pirates really dare to come, I will definitely join the fight. I'm going to cut off that Chris head with this knife in my hand." A swordsman said coldly, "Count me in on this matter." 445. Misbah Jin and Akoku's dialogue, both disdain Chris. The swordsman held the hilt in his hand and sneered, "I can't wait to fight the Chris pirates. I'd like to see if they have the confidence to come and invade our Putuola kingdom." A butcher on the street, Hey Isho, smiled disdainfully, "It's just a mob, it's not worth mentioning. The knife in my hand, but I haven't killed anyone for a long time." In the butcher's eyes, a fierce light suddenly shot out. Someone suddenly discovered that this person was actually a swordsman who had disappeared for many years. Several women in the Plaza de Buyano were not to be outdone. They narrowed their eyes and said, "Those who violate my Putuola kingdom will be punished even if they are far away. We must join in this battle. We won't stop until we kill all the Chris pirates." The other people around were also shouting loudly, wanting to fight the Chris pirates to the death. For a time, the people in the Plaza de Buenos Aires ignited a heart of fighting. Betty Dempsey looked at this scene with satisfaction, and a smug smile appeared on his face. This time, he finally succeeded in provoking the fighting spirit of the entire country. He suddenly opened his arms and shouted loudly, "Everyone, take up arms. Let's work together to exterminate all the abominable Chris pirates. We want the whole world to see that our kingdom of Putuola is powerful. Our kingdom of Putuola is not allowed to be coveted by anyone." Hearing Betty Dempsey's very inflammatory words, everyone below shouted. Soon, what happened on the Plaza de Buyano had spread throughout the entire Putuola kingdom. After listening to Betty Dempsey's speech, these people began to run around, calling for their companions. All the people began to run and tell each other, spreading the emotions and fire of the battle. For a time, the entire Putuola kingdom fell into an inexplicable frenzy. All adults have prepared their own weapons and are waiting for the battle to start. What's more, many of the children are also their own weapons, and their eyes are full of fighting spirit. The Putuola kingdom is full of the desire to fight for carry, and they all want to destroy the Chris pirates. Somewhere in the Putuola kingdom, the bosses of several weapon shops gathered together. In their shop to the center of the market. One of them directly thought about the surrounding propaganda. In order to resist the attack of the Chris pirates together, all weapons are provided for free. Anyone who is willing to fight with the kingdom's army can come here and take whatever weapon they like. Let's unite together and completely defeat the Chris pirates. Soon, the place was full of people, and one after another, they received the weapons that they had in hand. Similar situations have begun to appear in many places in the kingdom of Putuola. In such a country with strong folk customs, it is very easy to gather civil forces. Now walking on the streets of Putuola kingdom, you can see everyone with weapons. Almost every household stopped their daily work and prepared for battle. Putuola kingdom, somewhere near the deep mountains. The fierce tiger Boris has just come out of the deep mountains and is going to find a pub to drink. He saw that the people outside were preparing weapons one after another, with a menacing look. Only after inquiring did I find out that all this happened today. The violent tiger Boris shook his head with a smile, and sneered, "This Chris, does he hope to arouse the anger of the Putuola kingdom? I want to destroy the confidence of the entire Putuola kingdom people in one fell swoop. Haha, it's a little too self-sufficient." After gathering information from various sources, Boris the tiger quickly guessed Chris's true intentions. Of the people in the entire Putuola kingdom have indeed been successfully mobilized. But Boris the tiger doesn't think that the Chris pirates can defeat the Putuola kingdom in this state. He has been in this country for so many years, and he can no longer understand the power of the people in this country. He knows very well that once these people run wild, they will become a very terrifying force. The violent tiger Boris murmured. Chris, you are a good abacus. It's a pity that you underestimated the heritage of the Pudola kingdom. If you want to break the self-confidence of the whole country, some idiots are dreaming. At the same time, in another deep mountain in the kingdom of Pudola, Akoku and Bajin, the Weibo mother and son, they have already learned about the outside world. All the news. As for Chris's plan, they are naturally well aware of it. Bajin smiled disdainfully, and said, "This Chris, I really don't know how high the sky is." Sure enough, it's still too young. 446. Weibo is furious, he must kill Chris. Urgently hold a meeting to discuss the Chris pirates. Bajin shook his head and said, "It seems that Chris still can't see the form clearly. Does he really think that the kingdom of Pudola could be conquered by him so easily? He doesn't really think that he is better than the world government and the Big Mom pirate group." Was very surprised by Chris' actions today. Suddenly, she felt as if she had overestimated Chris before. As a person of the older generation, Bajin naturally understands more about the power of the Pudola kingdom. This country is powerful, and the people in this country are all powerful, and all can take up arms to resist the enemy. If you want to attack this country, you must kill all the people here. Otherwise, even if you temporarily occupy the kingdom of Pudola, it will be overthrown later. Moreover, the reason why people like Akoku and Storm Tiger Boris chose to live in seclusion in the kingdom of Pudola is not just because the kingdom of Pudola is not a member of the world government. More importantly, this country has a very strong ability to resist foreign enemies. Akoku's eyes are burning, he is playing with a pile of charcoal fires, and chuckles, "Now these juniors, it really doesn't matter what you do. Now that Chris is high-spirited and the teenager is proud, it is inevitable that there will be some stupid tricks. Want to conquer the kingdom of Pudola? Easier said than done." Akoku's tone was flat, which was mixed with his contempt for Chris. In Akoku's eyes, Chris is a nasty, yellow-mouthed child. Man can do something like hitting a stone with an egg. Bajin's face showed a gloating expression and said, "Let Chris continue to be a hero. Now the people of the entire Pudola kingdom have taken up their weapons. Faced with such a group of people, it's time for the Chris pirates to take a bite." Bajin has long coveted the gold and silver treasures of the Chris pirates, and naturally hoped that they would have a bad life. If this time, the Chris pirates can be directly defeated by the kingdom of Pudola. So if you want to get these treasures, isn't it a matter of grasping it, and it seems that the development of things is moving in the direction of her heart. ... Akoku looked up at the window, faint. Now, this Chris is indeed the brightest person in the sea. I can hear from him almost every day. However, if you don't have the strength to receive this attention and adoration, it is destined to be a flash in the pan. Today's events made Akoku feel that Chris's temperament is average. Even if he was lucky enough to pass the Pudola kingdom, he would definitely not go far. Weibo sat beside him, his face gloomy. He said angrily, "Humph. Chris, this nasty guy. My limelight was all stolen by that guy Chris." More Weibo thought about it, the more angry he felt, and he said viciously, "No, this is absolutely unbearable. I must personally kill Chris. As long as I can kill that nasty guy with my own hands, I will definitely be able to get the world's attention. At that time, I was the brightest star in the whole world." In Weibo's eyes, there was a fierce light. At this time, the kingdom of Pudola, the palace hall. Culture Minister Ricky Davis and others arrived here one after another, as well as the captains of the major pirate groups headed by Middle Camino. In the Pudola kingdom gathered in the palace hall at this time. After a long time, King Uridan arrived belatedly. King Yuri sat silently on his seat. For a time, the entire palace hall was filled with chills. All the people were very worried and silent at the moment. About the approaching Chris pirates was notified to each of them early in the morning. Almost everyone has realized the seriousness of the problem. While King Reading groaned and said, "Everyone already knows that. It seems that the Chris pirates can't stand it anymore. We must also make some necessary responses now." Culture Secretary Ricky Davies said softly, "Your Majesty, it is fortunate to have people like Betty Dempsey inspired. Now all the people in our country have taken up arms. This is undoubtedly a great thing for us." Saying that, a faint smile appeared on Ricky Davis's face. However, Isaac, the commander-in-chief of the battle, said coldly, "Others don't know, don't you know? Those people in Beit Diangshi were just sent by His Majesty the King to stabilize the hearts of the people. The current situation is extremely serious for us. Just relying on the citizens, is far from enough." Minister Yanis also nodded and said solemnly, "According to the information, the Chris pirates will attack us tomorrow. And the other kings, Shichibukai, will all assemble tomorrow. It now seems that the Chris pirates are obviously provoking us." 447. Isaac's analysis. The king was very angry and wanted to lead an army to attack Chris. Minister Yanis looked indignant and said, "This Chris, the provocation is too obvious. We can't help but make some responses. Everyone knows that the official attack of the Chris pirates must be tomorrow. So today, when Chris made such a show, the meaning is very obvious. Now it is not only these people in the Pudola kingdom who are aware of it, but also some forces that are always paying attention to the trends here. With a little bit of wisdom knows that Chris is a blatant provocation. And if the kingdom of Pudora does not respond, it will undoubtedly be a loss in front of the whole world." The vice-captain of the battle, Fuji, let out a long sigh and said solemnly, "At this time, we will make any the reaction as inappropriate. Whether it's tit for tat with the Chris pirates, or sending troops directly, it's impossible. All our combat deployments are in preparation for tomorrow's battle. If we start a war rashly now, all our previous deployments will be in vain. In a hurry, the battle effect will not be too ideal. Anyone who leads a war knows that it is the most taboo to send troops hastily before the war begins. Even if the general leading the team has a surefire strategy in mind, the soldiers cannot be prepared. Husey and others have already arranged their own tactics and army distribution. Once the war is launched in advance, the following army is likely to have a chaotic scene. Is extraordinary for such a crucial war." Education Minister Arenas frowned and murmured, "Then don't we just do nothing? The Chris pirates have already hit our door. Don't let the Chris pirates run wild in front of us." Chancellor of the Exchequer Kelpo also nodded and said righteously, "If you don't make the necessary response, it will be detrimental to our country's prestige. The war is imminent, and this will have a great impact on the hearts of the people and the military." This Chris really gave a difficult problem. Several ministers looked at each other, and they all shook their heads helplessly. They had to admire Chris, he moved very well. King Reading was also full of sorrow, and looked up at Isaac. He asked softly, "Isaac, what do you think we should do now?" At the critical moment, King Reading relied on and trusted the most, and he had to be the commander-in-chief of the battle, Isaac. This is not only because of his strength, but also because he is the wisest person in the entire palace. Isaac frowned slightly, and said lightly, "Chris's move is wanting us to be in a dilemma. If we attack, we will fall into a trap, which is equivalent to a skirmish. And the other party is ready early. The situation is naturally beneficial to the Chris pirates." He spread out his hands, and then continued, "If we don't take action, we can't give some response. Not to mention how we are in the eyes of the outside world, but in the eyes of the people, we will all appear cowardly and timid. As a result, our people may lose some confidence in the government." Culture Minister Ricky Davis raised his eyebrows and said softly, "Fortunately, His Majesty the King has foresight. Sending Biden, Auden and others to give speeches in advance has stabilized the current situation. The attention of the people outside is now focused on the anger towards the Chris pirates. In a short time, they shouldn't notice anything else." Saying that, A slightly flattering smile appeared on Ricky Davis's face. At this critical moment, he still will not miss any chance to please King Uridan. And his face also aroused the dissatisfaction of Isaac and Huji. Both of them glanced at Ricky Davis with contempt. Isaac retracted his gaze and continued, "These are just two superficial problems. If you think about it carefully, you will know why Chris has to do this and come to provoke us. According to our intelligence, Chris is not of such a character. If something goes wrong, there must be a demon." Hearing this, everyone also felt that it was very reasonable. Captain Middle Camino said coldly, "This Chris's strength is top-notch, so it shouldn't be for a moment. A quick one. He must have some other purpose in doing this. But, angering our entire Pudora kingdom, what good is it for him?" Evil Bradley frowned and murmured, "In the current situation, the people of Pudora kingdom are all angry. In this way, the overall combat power of Pudora kingdom will be improved. What do you think? It's not a good thing for the Chris pirates." Isaac shook his head and snorted coldly, "It's not that simple." 448. Facing the power of Chris, the kingdom of Pudola, call all the hidden pirates. Vivi, the commander-in-chief of the battle, squinted his eyes and sneered, "Everyone still thinks Chris is too simplistic. This person's mind and ambition are more complicated than we think." Cacho touched his mechanical arm and asked, "Why?" Everyone else looked at Isaac curiously, waiting for him to give his opinion. Isaac said directly, "We learned from the beginning that after the Chris pirates were going to attack the kingdom of Pudora. The first reaction of all of us is, the Chris pirates want to invade our territory and plunder our treasure." King Uridan and the other ministers nodded without any hesitation. Minister Giannis also asked back, "Isn't that so? Chris put so much effort into it, he just took a fancy to the rich resources and gold and silver treasures of our Pudora kingdom. Otherwise, why would he bother so much?" Isaac smiled disdainfully and said, "This is just our stereotype of pirates. We believe that pirates live for gold and silver treasures. And pirates at the level of Chris, in addition to gold and silver treasures, naturally expand their power. I think everyone, that's what they think." Saying that, Isaac's eyes swept across Middle Camino and other captains of the pirate group. Tristan shrugged his shoulders directly, and said generously, "We go to sea just for these gold and silver treasures, and the respect of others, or fear." The captain of the Silver Bear Pirates, Morant West, also said bluntly, "In this year, there are not many who really go to sea for the name of One Piece King of Pirates. Even for being One Piece King of Pirates, not for the treasure that Roger left behind. To be honest, if it wasn't for the rich rewards given to us by the Kingdom of Pudora, we wouldn't have come to swim in this muddy water. This is the truth in the hearts of these pirate captains. People die for wealth, birds die for food. Pirates have always been a very present." Isaac nodded, then smiled strangely, and said, "This is the most common image of a pirate in our minds. But, Chris is no ordinary pirate. The Chris pirates are also an ordinary pirate group. They want more than treasure and fame." Isaac paused, then said solemnly, "We got information before. Chris made a deal with Marine. As long as he can capture our kingdom of Pudora, the world government will make him the king of a country. That's when we should have thought that what Chris wants is far from simple." Luis Caccio said thoughtfully, "You mean, Chris really wants to set up his own country? And, he's not trying to take a turf and start from scratch. Chris wants to directly take over the centuries-old efforts of the Pudola royal family." As soon as these words came out, everyone, including King Uridan, widened their eyes in shock. For this guess, everyone feels very incredible. But when you think about it, it does make some sense. Education Minister Arenas couldn't help shaking his head and sneered, "This Chris, isn't it crazy? Does he really think that our Pudora kingdom can be taken over by an outsider so easily? Does he know How much effort I have made in the past generations of the royal family of the Pudola kingdom to achieve today's achievements. King Uridan looked gloomy, but remained silent. No one knew what he was thinking. Fortunately, Isaac said unabashedly, it is precisely because of the difficulties that he has this blatant provocation. Chris is deliberately provoking public anger. What he wants is that our Pudola kingdom go all out. As long as you can be dignified and upright, in a frontal battle, defeat the Pudola kingdom, which is attacking with all its strength. Then the Chris pirates have a high possibility of successfully conquering the people of Pudora kingdom. Because at that time, the self-confidence of our people was destroyed by them. Vice Captain Husi rubbed his temples, shook his head and said, Shengwu, this is the culture of our country. If the force of the Chris pirates is strong enough, it is indeed possible for these people to surrender to them. Hearing this, all the ministers seemed to be suddenly discouraged. They secretly looked at the king on the throne, Uridan's face, at this moment, very ugly. His confidant minister Giannis rolled his eyes and said sharply, this Chris, it's just too much. He just didn't take our Pudora kingdom in his eyes. In my opinion, it doesn't matter if you ditch the deployment. You can fight them directly. 449. The Kingdom of Pudola, gather all the fighting forces, and prepare to fight to the death. Giannis looked righteous and aggressive. He said loudly, even if there is no specific tactical cooperation, the army of our Pudola kingdom is strong enough. In addition to the people who took up arms outside, it's not that we can't go to war directly. Since Chris wants to defeat us in the strongest state, let him have a taste of being backlashed. With Giannis making such a statement, the depression in the hearts of the other ministers turned into anger at this moment. Chancellor of the Exchequer Kelpo said sharply, I suggest, immediately, to war. With our current state, we can completely compete with the Chris pirates. The Minister of Culture, Ricky Davis, also agreed very much, agreeing, the Chris pirates rely on nothing more than Chris. And our Pudora kingdom, with so many masters, is afraid that we won't be able to restrain a Chris. Chris is so arrogant, we must not let him continue to be arrogant. Education Minister Arenas snorted and said, if we do nothing today, it means we are showing weakness. Now, what will happen next to the Chris pirates? Arenas turned to look at King Uridan and pleaded, Your Majesty, let's send troops. Now is the time when morale is high, and this is a great time to fight. At this moment, outside the Pudola palace, a noisy voice entered the palace. All the people outside were shouting, Destroy the Chris pirates. Attack the Chris pirates. Cut off Chris's head. One after another, it was deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. The ministers couldn't hold back their emotions when they heard this inspiring slogan. King Uridan were already gathered together at this moment, forming a deep ravine. His heart began to sway a little. Upon seeing this, Isaac, the commander-in-chief of the battle, poured a basin of cold water and said, You can guarantee that we can solve the battle within a day. If the main fighting force of Kari cannot be eliminated today, wait until tomorrow when the other King Shichibukai appears. Do you think that with our strength, we can still support it? The vice captain of the battle, Tuji also sneered, and said bluntly, the people from the Shichibukai alliance are the biggest threat. As long as 7 of them are there, it's going to be a huge problem for us. Our existing masters are probably too stretched to deal with a Chris and a Hawkeye Mahawk. Not to mention, there are 5 other people. Isaac and Tuji saw the situation very clearly, and they knew that the crux of the war was the Shichibukai alliance. King Shichibukai gathers together and fights side by side, which is a rare scene. No one knows what kind of power these 7 _ everyone can handle it. But the other people are not too easy to mess with. Kachio nodded, spread his hands and said, the original Empress Boa Hancock doesn't really need to worry, but now. Hancock has been improving since she re-entered the New World. And what her strength is now, we don't know. For sure, she's become a pretty tricky being. The captain of the cavalry pirates, Tristan licked his lips and murmured, except Gecko Moria we can meet. Other people, I'm afraid everyone is not sure. These three people are already the three most powerful among the captains of the pirate group. If none of them are sure, let alone others. For a time, a worried mood and atmosphere enveloped the entire hall. Seeing the gloomy expressions on everyone's face, King Uridan couldn't help shaking his head. He suddenly said in a deep voice, Chris provokes us, doesn't he just want us to keep calling people? Since he gave this opportunity, let's show him. King Uridan seemed to make up his mind suddenly. He turned his head to look at Giannis and asked, Giannis, didn't you say that some people's mouths have become loose these days? Take this opportunity to lobby them quickly. Hearing this, Giannis nodded happily. In the past few days, several big pirates have indeed contacted him. Although he didn't express his attitude directly, it was also very ambiguous. King Uridan felt that there must be some tricks hidden in such a sudden performance at this time. So this matter has not continued. Now, Uridan can't take care of that much anymore. All he wants now is to destroy the Chris pirates. King Uridan turned his head and told the Chancellor of the Exchequer Kyle Pope, remember, this time, I will do whatever it takes. 450. The aid of the Kingdom of Pudola, this is a big pirate. King Uridan looked solemn, with a bit of cold blood in his eyes. Although he is a little older now, he still maintains the ruthlessness of the past. Sneered and said disdainfully, since Chris has invited members of the Shichibukai Alliance to help out, then the battle on our side, naturally, cannot be defeated. Over the years, I have accumulated a lot of contacts in Pudora Kingdom. Last time, Pudora Kingdom was in a hurry and could only summon these pirate groups headed by Middle Camino. However, these are far from the real network strength of Pudora Kingdom. If it wasn't for the tight time last time and they didn't fully understand the situation, it would not have been possible to end the external contact in such a hurry. Some of the real powerhouses they know are mostly dragons, and it is difficult to contact them. But now, the Kingdom of Pudora has reconnected with these people. King Uridan glanced at Giannis and asked, who are the people who took the initiative to contact us this time? Hearing this, Giannis quickly replied, the ones who took the initiative to contact us include the wizard pirates, the old ghost pirates, and the one-eyed pirates. These three pirates have all been to our Pudola Kingdom before. Their relationship with us has always been pretty good. Husey smiled strangely, and said lightly sarcastically, these three pirate groups, when they were looking for them before, were pushy and blocked. Now that I take the initiative to contact us, I think I suddenly recognize the situation. As expected of a big pirate galloping into the new world, he really knows how to navigate the wind. Chancellor of the Exchequer Kelpo is also indifferent to Isho, saying casually, these people are like this, changing. Last time we offered such a generous payment, they all refused. Now I suddenly want to come to help, I really don't know what medicine they sell in the gourd. King Uridan waved his hand and murmured, no matter what medicine they sell in the gourd, no matter why they suddenly change their minds. As long as you are willing to come to help me Puduo, you must treat each other with courtesy. Giannis, you are in charge of docking, these three pirates, let them come over tomorrow. Giannis nodded heavily and said with a smile, we are not far from us right now. I believe that these pirate groups will be able to rush over this evening, this morning. King Uridan nodded with satisfaction, his brows stretched a lot. Minister of Culture, Ricky Davis, frowned and said, it is naturally a good thing that the three pirates are willing to help us. But as far as I know, their strength is not particularly strong. Even if they come, I'm afraid they won't be able to compete with the Shichibukai Alliance. Several other ministers also nodded, expressing concern. On the other hand, the captain of the Silver Bear Pirates, Morant West, said generously, these three pirates are comparable in strength to ours. To tell the truth, none of us are rivals of King Shichibukai. Even if it is Gecko Moria, the weakest in everyone's impression, it is probably difficult for us to resist. It's still Gecko Moria, whose strength has declined after a major injury. In the New World have heard about Gecko Moria's attack on Kaido. It is precisely because of this that Gecko Moria stays in the Devil's Triangle all the year round. Its own strength has not returned to its peak state for a long time. People like Morency and Tobias are indeed well-known pirates. But compared with Gecko Moria, the quality is still a little worse. Captain Siakam of the Frozen Pirates shrugged and said, I can deal with a pair of Gecko Moria. However, I'm not entirely sure. Though the three pirates can't play a key role, they are used to deal with the captain of the Chris Pirates. They should still be able to do it. Captain Evil Bradley of the Triumph Pirates said directly, I also received some news here. There are several small and well-known pirate groups that just happen to appear in the waters around Kudora Kingdom at this moment. If the Kingdom of Kudola is interested, I can get in touch for you. King Uridan nodded without hesitation. Then there is Captain Lloyd Bradley. If you have any pirate friends you know, you can invite them over. My Kingdom of Kudora promises that I will never treat them badly. At this time, Uridan already had the determination to break the boat, and in order to defeat the Chris Pirates, he was willing to pay any price. Even if it is to empty the treasury of the entire Kudora Kingdom. Minister Giannis suddenly mentioned, Your Majesty, our intelligence agent, also made some discoveries. They saw the figure of the big bug pirates. 451. The strength of the old blacksmith is terrifying. This is the strong aid of the Kudora Kingdom. Big bug pirates. Did they show up? Hearing Giannis' words, Tank Pirate Captain Tobias immediately stood up excitedly. It can be seen from his expression that this big bug pirates is not an ordinary character. The captains of the pirate regiments next to him also showed a bit of surprise on their faces. Giannis continued, There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. The big bug pirates did suddenly appear in this sea area. Although it is far away from us, it is also in the same sea. The commander-in-chief of the battle squinted his eyes and muttered, I didn't expect this guy to appear here. It is said that he has disappeared for many years. Our Kudora Kingdom has not been in touch with him for more than 10 years. King Uridan seemed to have fallen into memory, and said lightly, This guy Rodman, the big bug, is indeed an interesting person. As early as 10 years ago, he was already a hegemon. Now that he has appeared, it means that he heard about us. Uridan directly ordered, Giannis, immediately. Send someone to contact Captain Rodman of the Bug Pirates. Tell him that I, Uridan, invited him to come to the Kingdom of Kudola to reminisce. If you can't invite him over, you and the people you sent out don't have to come back. King Uridan's attitude is also very tough, and it seems that he is also bound to win against the big bug pirates. Louis Caccio tapped the table with his fingers, and smiled faintly, Rodman the big bug, he is indeed a master. It would be a good thing for us if he is willing to come and join this fight. With his strength, he should be able to resist the Empress Boa Hancock. Rodman, the captain of the big bug pirates, is also a strong man of the same era as Louis Caccio. Although he has disappeared for so many years, no one will question his strength. His bounty had already reached tens of thousands of terrifying Baileys. After so many years, no one knows how strong he is now. After receiving the order of King Uridan, Giannis hurriedly left the hall temporarily. He is well aware of the importance of the big bug pirates to the Kingdom of Kudora and to this war. So he didn't dare to be slighted in the slightest. Soon, Giannis found a few people he trusted the most and explained this extremely important matter to them. Short while, a group of men and horses quietly left the Kudola Palace with a lot of things. Palace Hall, everyone is still discussing. King Uridan said again, the big bug pirates are an important force for us. But just one big bug Rodman is not enough to make up for the power imbalance between us and the Shichibukai alliance. What other candidates do you have? The vice captain of the battle Huji raised his eyebrows and recommended, "Speaking of which, I'm here. There is a candidate. This person also has a great relationship with our Puduola kingdom." Education Minister Arenas asked curiously, "Captain Hu, do we all know the person you are talking about?" Husi smiled strangely, nodded and said, "Yes, everyone should know the person I want to recommend. He is born in the kingdom of Pudora, and now the captain of the blacksmith pirates, the old blacksmith Smart." As soon as the name was uttered, the officials of Pudora Kingdom felt very familiar. Strange to say, the kingdom of Puduola is a martial country, but there are not many pirates born in the kingdom of Puduola. And this old blacksmith Smart is just one of the very few. The vice-captain of the battle, Husi, continued, "Old blacksmith Smart's strength is no weaker than Rodman the Big Bug. Just half a year ago, his reward amount had reached 650 million 6 Bailey. If he can be reached, I think he'd be more than willing to come back and help us." Tristan was surprised and murmured, "It turns out that the famous old blacksmith Smart, his hometown is the kingdom of Pudora. Since you have such a relationship, why didn't you find him in the first place? His strength alone is equal to several of us." Middle Camino looked indifferent and said coldly, "If there were old blacksmith Smart here, we would not be as passive as we are now. At least, our current paper strength can completely compete with the Chris pirates." Middle Camino and others, after hearing the name of the old blacksmith Smart, obviously have a lot of energy. This also shows that the strength of the blacksmith pirates has long been recognized by the outside world. Chancellor of the Exchequer Kelpo spread his hands helplessly, shook his head and said, "To be honest, Captain Smart is the first person we have contacted. But he rejected us outright." 452. All the hidden powerhouses want to kill Chris. This is bound to be a shocking battle. Hearing this, all the captains of the pirate group present were not sure why. They didn't understand why the old blacksmith Smart refused the Chancellor of the Exchequer. Kyle Bow, hesitating, rolling his eyes, carefully glanced at King Uridan. Kyle Pope didn't end up speaking any further. The contrary, King Uridan smiled and explained in person, "This Smart is driven out by me. He was my favorite blacksmith back then. Many of my swords were made by him for me. After I became the king of the Pudola kingdom, this person relied on my trust and privately recast the sword that my father passed on to me. In a fit of rage, I expelled him from the Pudola kingdom. It is precisely because of this that he has no choice but to become a pirate." Relieved smile appeared on King Uridan's face, and he continued, "After so many years, I have forgiven him long ago. However, it seems that he is still brooding." After listening to this, the captains of the pirates also understood the grievances involved. Luis Caccio touched the hilt of his sword and said casually, "The bell must be tied. If you want the old blacksmith Smart to come back to help the kingdom of Pudora, I'm afraid your majesty the king. You need to bend over." Culture Secretary Ricky Davis waved his hand directly and retorted, "This is absolutely not possible. His Majesty the King is the most honorable person, how could he condescend and apologize to an old blacksmith? What's more, this matter was originally that Smart's fault." Education Minister Arenas frowned and said, "It's really inappropriate to ask His Majesty the King to apologize. If this matter gets out, it will have a great impact on the royal family. The image of the royal family now also affects the support of the people of the entire Puduola kingdom." Tank Pirate Captain Tobias pouted and said sarcastically, "The country will be destroyed by others. What's the use of face at this time? Top players like the old blacksmith Smart are very important to our current situation. Without him, who of you will fight Shichibukai?" Several ministers were speechless for a while. King Uridan fell silent suddenly. Without saying a word. After pondering for dozens of seconds, he suddenly raised his head and said, "When the country survives, why not let me bend over?" At this time, Giannis had returned to the main hall. King Uridan immediately said again, "Giannis, where is the blacksmith pirates now?" Giannis was first surprised by Vivi, and then replied, "According to our information, the blacksmith pirates have actually been wandering around all the time." Hearing this, everyone was very clear in their hearts. Of the old blacksmith smart, he was always thinking about the kingdom of Pudora. That he didn't come back directly because of his unhappiness with King Eurydion. The corner of King Eurydien's mouth is also Vivi Isho, and his expression is also somewhat relieved. He ordered, "Send my message to the blacksmith pirates and tell Smart. Just say Eurydion, want to talk to him in person." When he spoke, there was a bit of memory in Eurydien's eyes. After speaking, Giannis also immediately sent someone out to convey the message. Now no one doubts whether the old blacksmith Smart will return. As long as King Eurydion apologizes, Smart will definitely appear as soon as possible. Isaac, the commander-in-chief of the battle, said indifferently, "If everything goes well, we will have Rodman the Worm and Smart the old blacksmith. With the addition of these two people, we don't need to worry too much about the Shichibukai alliance. With our strength in strength, we can fill the gap." So-called two fists are invincible to four hands, and the biggest advantage of the Pudola kingdom today is that it has a large number of troops. At this time, Giannis smiled mysteriously. "Just now, I got a new news. I think everyone will be very happy after hearing the news." Culture Secretary Ricky Davis urged, "Giannis, tell me what the news is." Giannis didn't make a fool of himself, and said directly, "Our people have successfully contacted the troubled pirates and the bull pirates. These two pirate groups are willing to come to help our Pudora kingdom." Hearing this, Fuji said with a slight surprise, "It's really not easy for these two pirate groups to contact each other. I remember at the beginning, they were the first people we contacted. The news has not come until now." Isaac took issue indifferently and said, "A good meal is not afraid of being late. When contacting them at this critical moment, I finally did not miss the opportunity." Elvire Bradley said in surprise, "It's actually these two pirate groups. Their strength is also very powerful. Compared to the big bug pirates and the blacksmith pirates, they are not weak." Morantassi sneered and said, "Your news is too late. Do you know how much the bull pirate's captain's bounty is?" 453. The Great Pirate joins. The Kingdom of Pudora has summoned the strongest force. Hearing Morant West's questioning, Evil Bradley also frowned. He said in a slightly suspicious tone, "Miro Teach, the captain of the bull pirates, hasn't his bounty been changed all the time? I remember his bounty has been kept at 540,000,005 Baileys for many years. And recently, I haven't heard anything else from him." Tank Pirate Captain Tobias also looked at Morant West in doubt, and said, "The bull pirates have been keeping a low profile for the past few years. Miro Teach doesn't seem to have any movement." Not only these two people, but many people present had the same doubts. They didn't receive any news at all. Morant West sneered and said, "The latest bounty order has come down, and Milo Teach's bounty amount has also been increased. Now, the captain of the bull pirates, Milo Teach, the reward amount has reached 730,000,007 Bailey. A whole increase, 190 million Baileys." Hearing this news, Evil Bradley and others were all shocked. Even Middle Camino and Luis Caccio, who had always been relatively calm, were a little uneasy at the moment. Middle Camino squinted his eyes and muttered to himself, "I didn't expect that Milo Teach actually broke through the 700 million Bailey mark. Suddenly, the reward amount has increased so much." In the world of pirates, the bounty amount is an important indicator to evaluate a pirate's strength. Therefore, many pirates are also proud of receiving high bounties from the world government. So many people have been constantly pursuing and getting a high bounty. And in the circle of pirates in the New World, there is also an unwritten rule. 200 million Baileys, 500 million Baileys, 700 million Baileys, 1 billion Baileys and 1.5 billion Baileys are all a threshold respectively. The bounty reached 200 million Baileys, but it was 500 million Baileys, all of them belong to the newcomers who could have a place in the new world. Although these people are not weak, but in the new world of Daji, they are not too important people at all. Similar to Morency and others, although they are famous, they will not be concerned and feared by too many people. And once the bounty exceeds 500 million Bailey, similar to Middle Camino and others, it belongs to a small overlord. In this Pudora Kingdom meeting, it is obvious that Morency and others are very interested in their fear and respect. As for the pirates whose bounty can exceed 700 million Baileys, they are already famous people. There are not many such pirates in the whole new world. Whenever the bounty exceeds 700 million Bailey, they are basically the overlords of the dominant side. Even the 4 emperors' pirates will not provoke them at will. Middle Camino looked surprised and said, "It is possible to be given such a high bounty by the world government. The bull pirates must have done something big." Luis Caccio also clicked his tongue twice and said, "There is no parallel import of any reward that can exceed 700 million Bailey. It's just, Miro has come to this step silently, which is a little unexpected." Morency smiled eccentrically, and said mysteriously, "It is also a coincidence that I was able to know this news in advance. Now if we go to sea, the news must have spread all over the sea. It is said that the bull pirates attacked the Big Mom pirate group, and Milo Teach confronted one of Big Mom's generals. Although Milo Teach was not able to defeat the Star in the end, the two were almost evenly divided. And in the end, the bull pirates were able to retreat." Hearing this, Tristan raised his eyebrows and said, "The generals under the Big Mom pirate group are all real masters. It is said that each of them has a bounty of more than 600 million Bailey." Isaac, the commander-in-chief of the battle, said directly, "There are 4 generals in the Big Mom pirate regiment, 3 males and 1 female. The weakest star among them is Snug, but his bounty has also reached 600 million Bailey. And the strongest Katakori, the bounty has reached a terrifying 1,570,570,005 Bailey." Hearing this number, everyone present, VV's eyes trembled. The big pirates with a bounty of more than 1 billion Baileys, they have never seen people here. Generally, pirates of this level belong to the existence after the 4 emperors. Big Mom pirate group once invaded the kingdom of Pudora, so Isaac is still familiar with them. Isaac continued, "The other 2, one called Cracker, have a bounty of 860 million 8 Baileys. There's another called Smoothie, with a bounty as high as 932 million 9 Baileys." He glanced at Morant West and said indifferently, "The one Milo Teach defeated should be Cracker." 454. "Chris, you don't regret it?" Isaac looked indifferent and said casually, "With Milo Teach's strength, it should be difficult for Star Snag to restrain him. Since Milo Teach didn't take advantage in the end, and the bounty was just over 700 million Bailey. Then what he will most likely encounter is General Star Cracker." The vice captain of the battle, Fuji, rubbed his temples and chuckled, "Zhongxing Cracker, this is also a ruthless character. Miro Teach can tie him, his strength is evident. This kind of Malati can definitely be compared to the King Shichibukai." Culture Minister Ricky Davis heard the words, and immediately said with joy, "In that case, we should invite him over as soon as possible. With Rodman the Worm, Smart the old blacksmith and Teach the Bull, we can match the Shichibukai alliance in momentum. Chris's most proud Shichibukai alliance will not threaten us." Giannis also showed a smug smile on his face, reminding, "Don't forget, in addition to the Bull Pirates, we also have the Trouble Pirates. The captain of the Troubled Pirates is also an existence whose strength cannot be underestimated." Hearing the name of this pirate group, Middle Camino couldn't help frowning. Was also a hint of disgust in his eyes. Middle Camino curled his lips and said, "That troublesome woman is really haunted." Luis Caccio looked at Middle Camino with interest and smiled eccentrically. He asked curiously, "It seems that you have quite a relationship with this troublesome pirate group. I heard that the captain of the troubled pirates, Haria Zena, is a very mysterious woman." Tank Pirate Captain Tobias also said with a smile, "It is said that few people have seen her true face. Even on the world government's bounty, she wears a black mask. I don't know if this Hariazina is a beautiful, or an ugly girl." Everyone looked at Middle Camino, intentionally or unintentionally, who couldn't help but feel a little hairy. Middle Camino shook his head helplessly and explained, "Not long ago, we had a battle with the troubled pirates. I just didn't expect to hear the breath again so soon. I didn't even think that we might fight side by side in the Battle of Pudora Kingdom." Can be seen that Middle Camino is very helpless. He was a little tired of this Haryana. Chancellor of the Exchequer Kobo raised his eyebrows and said, "Since the trouble pirates dare to fight with the predator pirates, it shows that they are good. This Harriet should be a trustworthy expert." Reason, everyone looked at Middle Camino in unison. After all, among the people present, only Middle Camino and Haliazina had met and fought each other. So he should know best. Camino bit the bullet and continued, "The captain of the troubled pirates, Hariazina, offers a bounty of 510,000,005 Baileys. She is the Paramesha dust fruit ability. The last time there was a conflict was because she wanted to pull me into her pirate group. Therefore, the two of us fought a lot. The end result is, no one gets anyone, and then they break up." After hearing this, everyone's expressions were very wonderful. Luis Caccio gently wiped his long knife and murmured, "It's a lot of courage to ask you to join in. If there is a chance, I would like to get to know this Hariazina. However, neither of the two of you can get anyone. I'm still a little surprised." For the strength of Middle Camino, Luis Caccio is quite recognized. He believed that if he fought against him, there was a high probability that he would be suppressed all the time. Camino squinted his eyes and said coldly, "Hariazina's dust fruit is a bit strange. Her ability has caused me a lot of trouble." King Uridan shook his head with a smile, and said, "In this way, this Hariazina is really a troublesome spirit. But as long as there is absolute strength, I, the Kingdom of Pudola, are willing to invite help." Having said that, King Uridan ordered, "Giannis, hurry up and contact the captains of these two pirate groups. No matter what demands they make, try to meet them. I hope they can come to our Pudora Kingdom before the war starts tomorrow." This time, King Yuri suddenly had a lot of energy. Of these four pirate groups are all strong supporters. With their presence, King Uridan is no longer afraid of the Shichibukai alliance. He smiled excitedly, "Chris, you asked us to call foreign aid. Then I will do what you want. I hope tomorrow, you won't regret it." 455. On the deck, the squad leaders are talking and getting ready to attack one by one. King Uridan suddenly became very confident. Big Bug Rodman and others are the helper he wanted most at the beginning. At this critical moment, the 444 pirates suddenly appeared, making him immediately ignited hope. Now he began to have enough confidence to fight against the Chris pirates and the Shichibukai alliance. King Uridan looked out of the hall and murmured in the direction of the port, "Tomorrow, let's fight to the death. Chris, you will definitely see the power of my Pudola kingdom. And you will surely regret your stupid behavior today." Chris's actions today really made King Uridan and others feel very unhappy. They haven't seen such a provocative behavior for a long time. 2:30 in the afternoon, Chris. From the morning until now, the Chris has been quietly parked on the sea. The soldiers in the port of Pudora Kingdom were still in full force, daring not to relax. However, on the Chris, everyone was very relaxed. Nami and the others all found a comfortable place and began to enjoy the most leisurely time before the war. Fanka looked up and said with a smile, "Pudora Kingdom has sent another wave of people. From this morning until now, this is the fourth group of people they have sent. It seems that the Kingdom of Pudora is still very active in looking for foreign aid." Lafitte pressed his hat and smiled faintly. "The Kingdom of Pudora has plenty of troops, but the top combat power is insufficient. To fight against our Chris pirates, it is absolutely impossible to win by the advantage of numbers. Bartolomeo wore his coxcomb head and sneered, "Let them continue to look for foreign aid. Unless they can get Whitebeard and red-haired Shanks and others, it's all for nothing. In the face of our Chris pirates, general foreign aid is of no use at all." Kuro pushed his glasses and reminded calmly, "We received news that there are many powerful pirate groups near this sea area. Unsurprisingly, the Kingdom of Pudola wants to help these people. To be honest, this is a long-established big pirate, and it may take a little effort to deal with him. If you don't do it right, you may capsize in the gutter." About Kuro's awakening, Isho. He said nonchalantly, "The Kingdom of Pudora invited these foreign aid to come over to deal with the Shichibukai alliance. Did they really think that Shichibukai can be defeated so easily?" Luo Wai leaned against the railing and muttered, "The strength of the King Shichibukai is definitely not reflected by the bounty. If the Pudola Kingdom doesn't find a real master, it's basically difficult to resist Shichibukai, the king." Because of Doflamingo, Luo has a deep understanding of the King Shichibukai. He knew the horror of these people. Except Gecko Moria and Empress Boa Hancock, none of them should be underestimated. What's more, now, the strength of these two people has also been greatly improved. At this moment, Chris suddenly came over. Chris said to the crowd, "I got the news that this time the Marine headquarters sent Borsellino over with unknown intentions. On the surface, these Marines are to cooperate with us to win the Kingdom of Pudora. But, according to the secret information I have obtained, these Marines led by Borsellino are probably aimed at us. Marine headquarters, I'm afraid it wants to take this opportunity to exterminate our pirate group." Chris's words, immediately, attracted people's attention. Enel poked his ears and said casually, "Borsellino. Kizaru, one of the 3 Marine admirals. It is said that Admiral of the Marine headquarters is very powerful, if he dares to attack our Chris pirates. I want to meet him." Cavendish held his sword hilt and said coldly, "The world government is indeed hypocritical enough. Dare to play two-faced with our Chris pirates. Just the Marines they brought, it's really not enough to watch." Kuro's eyes, and he said casually, "The captain's information, it seems that there has never been a mistake. And after so long, Borsellino hasn't made any contact with us. So this thing should be true. It seems that the Marine headquarters is determined to get rid of us this time." Burgess bumped his fists together and said viciously, "Wow, haha. 1 hit is a hit, and 2 hits are a hit. If Marine wants to deal with us, let them come. Exactly, together with the Kingdom of Pudola, we clean them up together. I've already seen these Marines unpleasant." 456. The squad leaders are discussing, Kizaru's threat is too strong. Burgess is gearing up, and has long been unable to hold back. He is not afraid of Marine at all. Poe showed a forbearance smile and said coldly, "I don't mind using my newly developed biochemical weapon on Marine first. Dare to attack the idea of our Chris pirates, I'm afraid the decision-makers of the Marine headquarters are dizzy." A hint of joy in Caribou's eyes, and he said excitedly, "If they want to deal with us, I welcome them very much. My avatar fruit has been developed well now, but there is no object for me to use it. The soldiers of the Kingdom of Pudora don't know how strong they are, but the strength of an ordinary Marine is enough. I also want to see how many Marines can be defeated by a clone of mine." Mandemon Jin was expressionless and said coldly, "In the end, it's the Marine headquarters that thinks our threat isn't enough. Since this is the case, we have to let them see and provoke our fate. No less than provoke the 4 Emperor pirates. Teach them a good lesson, and they won't dare to provoke us easily in the future." Squad leaders were very angry about this. But they didn't have any worries or timidity. Instead, they were gearing up and trying to clean up together with Marine. Baccarat gathered his hair, and frowned slightly. "This Marine headquarters is really changeable, it's only about a month before and after time. They first supported us in attacking the Kingdom of Pudora, and now they will turn against us. It seems that we must overthrow this world government. Everyone has no doubts about Chris's intelligence. Now that they are fully convinced, Marine is ready to attack the Chris pirates. Perona flew around in the air and said angrily, "I'm really pissed off this princess. Who is it that makes this decision? I want him to doubt his own life and make him regret appearing in this world." Perona put her hands on her hips and pouted. And after Marine's headquarters made her very happy. Nami curled her lips and said sarcastically, "This is the so-called Marine of Justice. The two faces of them really let me see." Reiju stroked the hair on his forehead and said indifferently, "It doesn't matter, if they want to deal with us, let them come. Anyway, from the beginning, we never trusted Marine. We never expected these Marines led by Borsellino to be of any help to us. But if they want to make trouble, we can definitely make them pay." In Reiju's beautiful eyes, there was a faint killing intent. Since joining the Chris pirates, she has not been on the battlefield for a long time. And Marine's operation has also successfully angered Reiju. Betty spit out a puff of smoke and said lightly, "Speaking of which, the Marine led by Borsellino's combat effectiveness should not be underestimated. In addition to Borsellino, Marine Headquarters Admiral, at least, there are 8 Marine Vice Admiral. And according to the news, this time, it's all Marine Elite Vice Admiral like Onagumo. If they are really determined to deal with us, it will still bring a lot of trouble." Carrying a huge mace, Alvita stepped out. "Even if the 3 Marine Admirals come, we won't be afraid of them. Besides that, Onagumo, it's just Chris's underdog. A Marine Vice Admiral like him, a few more won't help. Our squad leaders are not vegetarians either." Alvita Vivi narrowed his eyes and snorted coldly, "If there is a chance, I would also like to meet them in person for a while. I also want to personally experience what kind of strength Marine Vice Admiral has." During this time, Alvita has been practicing hard. And during this period, she also got the guidance of Chris. Therefore, Alvita's strength has also been greatly improved. Now, she still has a lot of confidence in herself. Makino on the side said softly, "We are now, but not afraid of the Marine in front of us. But what we need to guard against is that this Marine has colluded with the Kingdom of Pudora. If they cooperate with each other and attack us back and forth, it will make us passive." Makino's words were recognized by the others, and everyone nodded. Once Marine and Pudora Kingdom are attacked, they have to take care of each other. Empress Boa Hancock said calmly, "If we are worried about them being attacked, we can leave some people behind to guard the Chris. This will ensure that our rear remains in a safe situation." 457. Okay, Hawkeye vs. Kizaru. This is Hawkeye's determination. Everyone's worries are not without reason. After all, Borsellino is a genuine Marine Headquarters Admiral. If he really took advantage of the fierce battle between the Chris pirates and the Pudola Kingdom, and attacked from the rear. For the Chris pirates, this would definitely be a big trouble. At this moment, Mahawk, who had never spoken for a long time, suddenly spoke up. His falcon-like eyes shot a gleam of light, and said lightly, "Let me handle this matter. King Shichibukai and Marine have always been in a cooperative relationship, they are just targeting Chris. My face, I think Borsellino still has to give it. If Borsellino is going to attack the Chris pirates, I will stop him myself. I don't believe that the Marine Headquarters will be desperate to tear up with all the King Shichibukai." Hawk-eyed Mahawk's expression was indifferent, and he could not see any change. He then continued, "If Borsellino insists on shooting, I will not sit idly by. If you believe me, I will definitely intercept Borsellino outside the Kingdom of Pudora." Hawk-eyed Mahawk's tone was always filled with awe-inspiring haki. He convinced everyone that as long as he was around, Borsellino would never accomplish anything. Lafitte pressed his hat and laughed softly, "Then there is Mr. Mahawk. As long as we stop Borsellino, we will be able to fight ahead with peace of mind." Cavendish was full of admiration and said excitedly, as expected of the world's greatest swordsman, Hockey. Those who dare to stop Marine Admiral Borsellino personally, there are not many people in this sea. Curro pushed his glasses lightly and muttered, the strength of Admiral in the Marine headquarters is definitely not as weak as we thought. There have always been rumors in the outside world that Admiral of Marine headquarters has the strength to fight the 4 emperors. Such rumors are not just groundless. Even if the Marine headquarters Admiral does not have the super strength of the 4 emperors, it will definitely not be too different. At the very least, it is impossible for the 4 emperors to defeat Admiral in seconds. Bartolomeo wore a green coxcomb and smiled disdainfully. Russolino seems to be the weakest of the 3 marine admirals. And even if he is not weak, Hawkeye Mahawk is an existence with 4 emperors level combat power. Anyway, Mahawk can stop Borsellino. Hawkins said with a dead face, I just calculated it. The chances of Mahawk successfully blocking Borsellino are as high as 70%. And the odds of Borsellino beating Mahawk are 0%. So even if there are any surprises or variables, Mahawk will at least be able to tie Borsellino. A pair of dead fish eyes, Hawkins said without emotion, you don't need to worry about anything at all. The strength of the Hawkeye Mahawk is absolutely worthy of all of us. Trust in Hawkeye Mahawk's strength, on the one hand, comes from Mahawk's legendary reputation. The world's greatest swordsman, who once competed with the red-haired Shanks. Such a person, it is hard not to believe his strength. Other hand, since seeing Hawkeye Mahawk and Chris tied in swordsmanship, everyone has no doubts. The squad leaders know how powerful Chris is. Although Chris does not reveal his swordsmanship on weekdays, his talent is enchanting in the eyes of everyone. So the squad leaders have no doubts about Chris' swordsmanship. Absolutely reached the extreme. That's their trust in Chris. So Hawkeye Mahawk can be tied with Chris in swordsmanship, which has already explained everything. Chris looked at Mahawk with a smile, nodded and said, Mahawk intercepts Borsellino, there is absolutely no problem. To beat Mahawk, it's a very difficult thing to do. At least, I think that Borsellino absolutely does not have such a strength. Hearing Chris' words, the other squad leaders stopped talking. They will always choose to believe Chris's judgment. Chris continued at Mahawk's side, it's up to you, Mahawk. If Borsellino is going to go to war across the board, I'll send someone to support it right away. But I believe that with you around, Borsellino shouldn't act rashly. For this mission, he offended Mahawk, the Hawkeye, and even Shichibukai, all the kings. Chris felt that Borsellino would not have made such an irrational choice. Right at this time. Suddenly, a pirate ship appeared in the distance. The direction the pirate ship was heading was straight towards the Chris. 458. EPUB finally arrives. This squad leader is a bit strong. In the distance, a pirate ship sailed slowly. Under the gazes of everyone, getting closer. Nami looked at the pirate ship from a distance and muttered, this pirate ship looks so strange. They didn't fly the pirate flag. Hearing this, Bakura indifferently said Isho, that's right, this is EPUB's ship. Yesterday, Chris specially asked me to tell EPUB and the others to be careful with Marine. So I told EPUB to stop flying the Chris pirate's flag. Nami nodded in surprise. Perona floated in the air, holding her small face and curling her lips. After so long, EPUB and the others are here. I've been waiting for so long without any interest. Let's spare EPUB and the others this time. Perona looked lethargic, and indeed seemed to be physically and mentally exhausted from the long wait. Betty flicked the cigarette ash and said lightly, listen to Robin, this EPUB's strength is good. I don't know, does he have the strength to get a squad leader position? Hancock touched his delicate chin and said generously, Bonnie said that EPUB's strength is above her. I think, after this period of time and experience in the new world, the current EPUB has definitely improved a lot. But whether he can get the position of a squad leader depends on him. Whether he can pass Chris's eyes. As the number of pirates increases, the strength of the personnel is also getting stronger and stronger. So everyone can feel that now Chris's requirements for the squad leader are getting higher and higher. The former Burgess and others were weaker, but that was the early stage of the development of the Chris pirates. Chris has all the time to nurture and wait for these people to grow up. But now, the strength of the squad leaders has reached the level of Marine Vice Admiral. If the strength is too weak, Chris will definitely not let them be the squad leader. For example, Tanaka-sama and Kribu, who are not weak now, are still unable to become squad leaders. In the eyes of everyone's expectation, EPUB slowly approached the Chris. Can be seen that there are not a lot of people on this boat. And it is more than the number reported by Robin before. These extras are all recruited along the way. Now on this boat, in addition to EPUB, there are Django, Catman Brothers, Johnny and Joseph and others. These are all the newcomers in this group, and among them, the strength ranks first. At this moment, the port of Kudora Kingdom. The port immediately became nervous when they found an unknown ship approaching the Chris. A soldier hurriedly said, "The reinforcements of the Chris pirates have arrived. It's so far away that it's hard to see which King Shichibukai is." Another soldier said angrily, "It doesn't matter which King Shichibukai is, it's not good news for us. If the help of the Chris pirates arrives in advance, they may really start the war in advance." The person next to him said with a puzzled look, "Isn't the information given above saying that Shichibukai will arrive tomorrow? I think it's just a boat coming, you don't need to be so nervous, right?" Soon as this statement came out, there was an immediate rebuttal. A soldier said directly, "How do you know that there is only one King Shichibukai on this ship? The instructions above say that Chris has successfully established the Shichibukai alliance. Maybe Shichibukai, the other kings, came here together." The captain of this team saw this scene and said in a cold voice, "What's the point of fighting back and forth? No matter what, we can't take it lightly about what the other party is up to." The captain immediately ordered, "You two, immediately report the news." The two soldiers looked at each other, one of them immediately turn around and leave to report the news to Levert. Other side. After approaching the Chris, EPUB and the others boarded the ship smoothly. After EPUB saw Chris, he said excitedly and respectfully, "Captain, we finally see you. Finally, I didn't miss this war." When speaking, EPUB's expression was very respectful. But everyone noticed that EPUB's hands always made some strange gestures. This seems to be a little habit of EPUB himself. After seeing this scene, Perona immediately. His eyes gleamed, and his spirit was suddenly lifted. She grinned and whispered to Nami and the others, "What I heard was true. This EPUB, he really is a seasoned music lover. Have you seen his gestures? This is a habit unique to people like them." Alvida glanced at Perona and said deliberately, "Didn't you say you, no longer interested in EPUB?" 459. Chris personally appointed EPUB to be the squad leader. Everyone looked at Perona, who was floating in the air, and saw her big eyes rolling. Familiar with Perona immediately knows that she is already thinking about it at this moment. Baccarat and others unconsciously looked at EPUB and others with a pitiful look. EPUB and others noticed this look, but they were all unclear. Perona said with a smile, "Newcomer, after all, there is still freshness. It's rare to see someone as interesting as EPUB with interesting devil fruit abilities." Ha 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 ha. She doesn't care what she said before. With a new person to play with, she has already thrown everything away. EPUB turned his head and said to Chris again, "Captain, we met some people on the way. It's troublesome, so it's a waste of time. But fortunately, I brought this team to you completely. By Robin this time we're lost, and they all arrived on the Chris. This also indirectly proves that the strength of this team is very impressive. is not enough to rely on luck alone to survive in this difficult new world. Chris looked at EPUB with satisfaction. He was quite optimistic about the strength and potential of EPUB. Chris said lightly, "To be able to successfully lead the team to this place, your ability and strength are obvious to all. With your current strength, I can make you a squad leader on my ship and take charge of your own team." EPUB's eyes widened in surprise, and he was speechless for a while. EPUB swallowed hard and said excitedly, "Thank you, Captain. Thank you for your trust, Captain. I will not disappoint you." EPUB was naturally excited when he got the position of squad leader. But even though he was so elated, he did not forget the people he brought here. He excitedly recommended to Chris, "Captain, the people I brought here this time are all very good. The most prominent ones are Django and the Catman brothers. They are absolutely very trustworthy." Chris glanced at these people, and Vivi nodded, meaning. But what surprised Chris was that he knew how to take care of these people. In Chris's former impression, EPUB was a selfish and untrustworthy person. But now, his personality seems to be different. At least, it can be seen from this little thing that he can still be trusted. And Chris is not worried. Under his subordinates, no one will dare to betray him. Lafayette pressed his hat and laughed softly. Robin's vision for selecting candidates is indeed good. This time, everyone in this team has a certain strength and great potential. I believe that after a period of experience, these people will stand out and show their edge. Wei squinted his eyes and murmured, "This EPUB looks really good. It's really not easy for him to get to where he is today. I just don't know what kind of abilities he has." Mandemon Jin wrapped his arms around his chest and said coldly, "It's very simple to know this. The battle with Pudora Kingdom is about to begin. On the battlefield, we will see everything about him more intuitively. But since he can be recognized by Chris, I believe that his strength will not be too bad." The squad leaders are still very interested in EPUB. After all, they have heard a lot of rumors about him before. Now that I see it, the identity of the EPUB long-armed clan has also aroused the interest of others. There has never been a long-armed person on the Chris. How they will fight is something that everyone is more curious about. Chris waved his hand and said casually, "Lafitte, take EPUB and the others to familiarize yourself with the environment here. And tell them the rules of our Chris pirates. As for the distribution of these people, it depends on your own abilities." Saying that, Chris glanced at all the captains with no intention. Chris rarely intervenes in the affairs of the various squads. How each of their squads can develop depends on the squad leader's own ability and strength. Of course, if a squad has been in a state of no improvement for a long time, Chris will not hesitate to cancel the post of the squad leader. The people that EPUB brought over this time are all relatively good. No matter how it is distributed, I am afraid it will cause dissatisfaction among other people. So Chris simply let them do it by themselves, each according to their abilities. He also wanted to take the opportunity to take a look at the preferences and methods of the squad leader. All the squad leaders who got Chris permission, immediately take active action. EPUB, on the other hand, is not in a hurry. He has already attracted a few good seedlings. Although the strength is not outstanding now, but it is worth trusting. 460. The squad leaders refuse to accept anyone, and they are all waiting for the outbreak of the war. Said frankly in front of everyone, Chris pirates, there are not too many complicated rules. Our only rule is, speak on our own merits. Whether it's the captain, vice captain, or squad leader, you have to rely on your own strength to win. As long as you have enough strength, it is not impossible to challenge my position as deputy captain. Lafitte suddenly smiled strangely and said, "Of course, if you want to challenge the captain's position, no one will stop you. But, I advise you not to have such thoughts. I don't know how I died when I die." Lafitte's tone suddenly became colder, and EPUB and the others felt awe-inspiring. From Lafitte's statement, they can feel the prestige of Chris in the entire pirate group. And they are also very clear that Chris's strength is stronger than they could ever imagine. Django smiled wisely and said, "We're not that stupid. Just do your part. It is our greatest blessing to be able to work with the captain's men." Johnny wore a pair of sunglasses and said coolly, "No matter what, I only recognize this captain. If someone dares to challenge his authority, I will be the first to stand up and kill that person." Johnny is very smart and shows his loyalty directly in front of everyone. Although he didn't know, Chris didn't eat this set at all. After understanding the rules of the Chris pirates, Apu and the others suddenly relaxed a lot. Such a pirate group full of opportunities and challenges is exactly what they are looking forward to. At this time, many squad leaders have also started their own robbing sessions, and they all have their favorite targets. Kuro walked up to Django unhurriedly and said lightly, "Django, he is good at hypnotizing enemies, and his methods are varied. Your weapon is the ring blade, which can kill the opponent's life in an instant when the enemy does not notice it." Kuro looked at the Catman brother next to him, his expression still flat. Catman brothers are good at defeating powerful enemies with the tacit understanding of Zalbo and Superman. Sharp cat claws are your favorite weapons. Django and the cat people were both very surprised that Kuro knew himself. It never occurred to them that they would also be noticed. Before entering the new world, their combat effectiveness was not too prominent. But Kuro can know them so well, it can only be said that he has already studied them. A faint smile appeared on Kuro's face, and he said casually, "I noticed you guys, it's been a long time. I like your fighting style and your own style, join my squad. I'll let you guys get more opportunities." Django twirled his ring blade with his right hand and chuckled, "I didn't expect Captain Kuro to know us so well. It must be very comfortable to work with Captain Kuro." Django suddenly lowered his voice and murmured, "I heard that Captain Kuro is the wisest of the squad leaders. Follow Captain Kuro, that's right." Django's face also showed a hint of pride at this moment. Cat brothers glanced at each other, and then nodded tacitly at the same time. Siamese cat Sam said directly and cheerfully, "We two brothers have no opinion. We are very happy to have the trust of Captain Kuro." The tabby cat Bougie looked indifferent and said coldly, "The first time we saw you, we hoped to join your squad. We cat people, we will never let you down." Can be seen that the tabby cat Bougie has an arrogance in his heart. Of them have absolute confidence in their combined strength. Kuro pushed his glasses and said indifferently, "Isho, follow me, you can't go wrong. I will make you the strongest team." Each team is quietly comparing with each other. On the surface, there is no competition, but every team hopes to be the strongest. On the other side of the Chris, Bartolomeo directly grabbed two people. One is Johnny and the other is Joseph. Johnny and Joseph are good brothers in themselves. Johnny had red hair and a sea character tattooed on the right side of his face. Joseph, on the other hand, had yellow hair and the word thief was tattooed on his left face. These two people use a knife, and the other uses a sword, and they cooperate very well. And Bartolomeo seems to like it very much. One with a special hair color. He grabbed Johnny and Joseph directly, and said with a smile, "I heard that you two are from East Blue." Johnny and Joseph were stunned for a while, and nodded somewhat bewildered. Then Bartolomeo said directly, "I'm also from East Blue. Collect, recommend, and share."